Welcome to this segment, the final segment of this week's offering of the talk show for talkers on irishtalkers.com. And Moira has been doing, as she is going to say, how to improve your charisma when online.
Well, that's the theory, Ted, and I shall try to demonstrate audibly, because unless you're watching this stream on YouTube as we record it, you won't actually see me doing it. But who knows, we might do this as a matter of course in the future. That would be fun, wouldn't it? We are all having to go to meetings online, and this has made some people very nervous. Other people are saying, well, okay, I want to make the best of this, but how can I make life better for me when I'm doing my speech or doing my table topic or conducting a role when online? But what I'm going to talk about today is more for when you're giving a speech or a table topic, and that is what changes do you have to make from the way you would be presenting your speech in an on-site situation to presenting it online. And there are a few key things to think about. The first thing is this. People are going to see you in your face far more clearly than they would in an on-site situation. Because in Speaker View on Zoom, you're there full screen potentially, and that could be considerably larger or considerably effectively closer than the audience would see you in an on-site situation. And what's going to happen with this? Well, every expression, everything that you do, everything that you say, all your gestures, your facial expressions are going to be so magnified in the effect that they're going to have on the audience. Just think about that for a second. You're not used to people seeing you in very good light, very close up, very personal. You're used to people seeing you from 8, 10, 12, 15 foot, or even in a big hall, 30, 40, 50 foot distance. But now they can see every blemish on your face, every hair that's out of place. So there's a couple of things to think about in this. First of all, whilst Ted smooths down his hair, there's a few things to think about. Your presentation, your background, that becomes very, very important. Now I'm going to switch off my virtual background, which is showing bookcases at the moment. And you're going to see behind me is a green screen. If I was to take that green screen down, you would see a really messy room with my cat wandering around, with my dog wandering in and out, and all sorts of distractions. Not good. So I have a green screen. And the result of that green screen is that I can display behind me whatever I wish to in terms of an image. Now, I'm going to put an image behind me now, which is just a plain sort of colored background. And that's quite good for giving a speech where you don't want to distract the audience from what you're saying. You want them to concentrate on you. But you could equally use the background to illustrate the speech that you're giving. For example, I gave a speech a couple of weeks ago entitled Beam Me Up, Scotty, which was about what was it about? I've lost my train of thought there for a second. It was about communication. So I used Beam Me Up, Scotty as a background, which I'm putting up now, and I used a Star Trek Enterprise picture as my general backdrop. And I also had 3 or 4 other things to illustrate what I was talking about: a magazine, a book, a video page, all of which contributed to the speech. So it's a bit like using your background as a slideshow to support your particular speech. And that, I think, worked very well. So that's something you can do. You could also introduce sound effects. Now, it's much easier to do that when you're on your computer, an on-site meeting, and I had to have somebody in the audience with a phone who was ready to press the button and play the sound effect at the right time, which sometimes worked, sometimes didn't work. So let's come down to the key thing, which is your facial expressions. Now, before I go on, I should give credit to Florian Murk, from whom I got most of the ideas for giving this particular segment. Florian is a German living in Barcelona. He's been a professional speaker and trainer for the last 11 years, I think. Sorry, 9 years. He started in 2011. And he's been doing a lot of work on YouTube, giving free tutorials on all aspects of public speaking. I've put a link to his YouTube channel in our website, so do go and visit him. And he's currently been doing a series, I think there were 7 videos on this subject of how to be charismatic, how to improve your charisma when you're online. So thank you, Florian, for giving me the ideas for this. Now, he quotes Jim Carrey, and Jim Carrey said his best friend is the mirror. Let that sink in. You've seen, I'm sure, you're a bit unusual if you hadn't seen at least one Jim Carrey movie, and his facial expressions are really quite extraordinary, if not excessive. And the way he developed them apparently was by looking in the mirror every day, looking in the mirror and making these extraordinary gestures with his mouth. I wish you could see me online, because I think you would get the idea much more clearly if you could see the facial expressions I'm making. But I'm looking at myself now online, and it certainly is extraordinary how much more impact you get when you can see somebody close up and their face is giving you all those expressions. So treat your face as being the most important thing when you're delivering that speech. Even if you're doing it standing up and you're standing back from the camera, people are still going to see you clearly because they can expand their screen. They can almost blow their screen up to whatever size they want to. So the face is the first thing. Second thing, of course, is your body language. Because unless you are very lucky and you have a really big room, it's very difficult to be able to display all of your body on screen. If you can, then I guess you can carry on as you would have done in your on-site club, except the very important thing that your audience is that camera in front of you. And therefore you have to pay much more attention to that camera in front of you, because that is looking at you, the audience. You can look to your right and you can look to your left as you would in an on-site situation, but you still have to make that camera your number one point of eye contact, because people will see when you are not looking at the camera. So let's go back to body language. Make more use of your gestures. Make your gestures bigger, because people may not be able to see enough of your body to be able to get the full impact of the gestures you're making. The way I'm recording this is you can only see the top of my chest upwards, which is not a lot. So when I'm doing hand gestures, I'm really having to go high and in the air. Otherwise, those hand gestures just would not be seen. We talked about your background. We talked about body language. We talked about facial expressions. We've talked about slides. What about things that might happen in the room? Now, if you're giving your speech, you're no doubt doing it in your home, and maybe your partner, your wife or your husband or your dog or your cat might well come into the room where you are giving your speech, even though they've been asked not to. They've come in to your room and caused a distraction. What are you going to do? Are you going to freeze? Are you going to ignore it? Or are you going to say, here's an opportunity for getting an impromptu reference to what's happened? So, for example, say, that was my wife, folks. She only comes in when she's told not to. Something like that, you know. What happens if somebody comes on screen when you're giving your presentation? In contests, everybody's supposed to have their video closed, but sometimes people, by mistake, their video goes on, and even more likely, they put their audio on. And if you're on speaker view, then suddenly somebody else pops up on the screen when you're giving your speech. This can be really annoying and can throw you. But again, own the moment and have that smart remark to make at the right time. Ted, thanks for interrupting my speech. You've given me the opportunity to rethink what I was saying. Or some stupid comment like that. You know what I mean? Can you see the point? You're taking the opportunity of incorporating that distraction into your speech. Okay, well, I have waffled on for long enough, I think. So I'm going to invite Ted and Paul to come back in and give me their pearls of wisdom, maybe to add to what I've been telling you.
Well, I think that was a wonderful demonstration, Myra, of how to raise your charisma. The one thing I did find that you could have pointed out was that those pictures that you're showing behind you, how did you get those on the screen as quickly as you did?
Because I have my settings page open on Zoom and my virtual background setting. And
So where do we find virtual background?
Do you have any images on your computer, Ted?
Well, oh, I have. I'm just asking on behalf of the members.
Yeah, I'm asking
the show.
I'm just asking the question. You have images on your computer.
I have.
Any image you have on your computer,
Right.
or that you can download from the internet, you can add into your library of virtual backgrounds.
Okay, well, there's my one there now, but it doesn't come up very well for the simple reason that I don't have a green screen.
You don't have a green screen. You can purchase a green screen, a pop-up green screen from Amazon for about, I don't know, 20, 30 euro. You can buy, what I have is a cloth screen, which I've suspended from lighting stands, which is much more effective because it's much wider, much bigger. Or you can, if you are fortunate enough that your computer, you can put your computer in front of you with behind you a plain wall of one color. Then you can tell the background to choose that color as the background, as the virtual background's color. Now, it's not perfect, but it can work. Now, I did start off today on Zoom not using my green screen, and what tended to happen was my headphones, which are black, tended to disappear. My hair tended to disappear. So that can be distracting. So I certainly would not recommend it to anybody who's giving a speech not to use a green screen if they want to use a virtual background. So use the green screen or don't have a virtual background. That's my recommendation.
Excellent. The reason I asked that particular question, Mara, that I just wanted our listeners, our viewers, to see exactly how to get the virtual background.
Sure. Sure.
So the virtual background, you have a little icon on the bottom left of your screen's viewers. It's a video camera. And next to that, there's a little up arrow. When you click on that, you're given the option of picking something from your virtual library. And that's where you get those pictures that Maura so very efficiently put up behind her there.
Okay, well, on that interesting note, we'll have to bring this show to a close. Thank you all for listening, if you have. Come back again next week for more, I was going to say intellectual chatter, but let's just say chatter on the subject of public speaking, confidence, Toastmasters, etc., etc. We'd love to have you back. So
see you next week. Bye.
From all of us here, bye for now. Bye.
Bye-bye.